When we look at the term responsible tourism, it's one thing to say, yes, it's fine to come to a wilderness area, and because I'm a tourist in the wilderness area and because there are tourism operations in the wilderness area, that guarantees the survival of the wilderness area. Actually, that's only half of the picture. The other half of the picture is that if we do not conduct ourselves in a way that guarantees the long-term sustainability of the areas in which we operate, then we are in fact going to lead to the death of those wilderness areas. So very importantly for us, we have a philosophy of trying to keep our impact of our infrastructure and the impact of our daily operations as light as possible. Operating in a wilderness environment as we do, with its remoteness and its isolation, has its challenges and it has its advantages. Challenges are very definitely day-to-day operations, simply getting supplies to this area. And in our situation, what we do is obviously we have a very well-established logistics supply network, and you try and design it in such a way that any deliveries or anyone taking things out of the reserve do so by going around to everybody and supplying that service, so they do it in one run. Simple concept, but it has a major impact. So one of the simplest, most surprising and successful elements of our recycling program has been the reuse of our wet waste. So what happens is, when the chefs are preparing the food, everything that they are not going to use in the meal comes out as wet waste, and the wet waste simply gets taken over here and gets emptied into that bin. Okay, so you've seen where we load the wet waste into the bin in the kitchen. That then gets brought through and emptied into a freezer in this room behind me. It then stays in the freezer until our recycling supplier comes through. They collect it, they take it out of the reserve with the rest of the recycling, and the wet waste is then given to the local community to be used for the pig farmers. So it's the ideal reuse system, and it is very, very effective. What we have found, however, is that it doesn't come without its challenges. If you put food in a freezer in a wilderness area like this, you get honey badgers. And that's exactly what has happened here over and over again. They literally came in. We have put locks on the freezer. We have put padlocks. They rip them off. They've taken the lid off the freezer, and we come through in the mornings and we find them in there. Now, this is not what we want. Obviously, we're not trying to provide food for the animals. We're trying to create a reuse system for outside the reserve. And in fact, we definitely don't want wild animal interaction. So the result of was that we had to actually put this rather sturdy cage door so that we keep our wet waste prisoner until our recycling supplier comes to collect it. What we're looking at here is the recycling part of our program, and this was started as a regional initiative called the Hoedspruit Recycling Program, and we have designed our system to work in conjunction with theirs. What it is a large cage, and the whole idea is this is to keep animals out, because the big problem with trying to do any recycling program in a wilderness area is that the wild animals want to take part as well. So what we've done is these lids all lock down, and then the cage is compartmentalized, and these large bags are then taken out and emptied into drums every time we empty and take the waste out to the recycling facility. And I think people realize just the impact that these little guys have. A lot of people talk about changing to LEDs, and of course it's the right thing to do, but for us we have noticed a significant impact. This tent has got 11 lights in it, just one tent, and if I take all 11 lights now with the LED lights that we have installed and I turn all of them on, I still am drawing less electricity than I was when I had just one incandescent bulb in this light next to me here. So in conclusion, I think we are incredibly fortunate to be able to operate the way that we do in this open system that is millions and millions of hectares in size. And it's our responsibility, but it's not just our responsibility, it's the responsibility of the guests who visit us as well. So anybody who is making their plans to come out and go on safari and to contribute positively to the survival of these wilderness areas, they also need to think and do their research and understand what they're coming to, so that they ensure that they are actually contributing to the survival of these areas and not to their destruction.